everyone, and welcome to today's virtual tour. We are here right by Tower Grove House in the formal garden. You can see the tulips behind us really opened up over the weekend. So we are bringing you a Tulip Tuesday tour today. They're all over the garden, not just in this bed. So stick with us and we will show you around. And I'm Kristina, for those who haven't tuned in before. This is Cassidy, and let's get this tour started. So as I mentioned, we're here at the formal garden right near Tower Grove House, which is now reopened for the season. So be sure to stop by and see their exhibit while you're here. But this year, the tulip display, as you can see, is very, very pink. A lot of pink going on. They're all not the same pink tulip, but all in that color palette.
Yeah, I really like these. I think there's maybe some sort of double tulip, and so they're a lot darker than the other tulips. You've got lots of beds of these lighter pinks, and then this darker color from the double tulips. And when I say double, like just looking at this one here, you can see sort of that single layer of petals on that flower. But then if you look at this one, you can see just how many more petals there are. So that's generally a consideration. There's double daffodils. I've even seen a double dogwood, which is kind of neat. So you'll see that on a lot of times when a flower is listed as a double of something, it's because it has more petals.
And speaking of daffodils, those are something that is also in bloom right now at the garden. It isn't just the tulips, there's quite a lot in bloom right now. There are some magnolias are past, but others are still blooming strong. Daffodils, bluebells. We have our, speaking of double blossom kanzen cherry trees starting to bloom. And a lot more as well. There's always so much blooming this time of year. But the tulips are a favorite, so we certainly wanted to make sure to stop by those today.
Yeah, in this area, we're actually, unlike most of our tours, which we shoot on Mondays when the garden is closed, the garden is open today, and you can see visitors really taking advantage of this break in the April showers. And a pretty decent day considering it was raining earlier this morning and rained a lot yesterday. But we've got some painters here that are doing some work. I've seen lots of families with little kids coming here to take pictures in front of the tulips. So definitely, April's always a little bit of a tricky month with Mother Nature and all the rain that we can have. So definitely worth looking at the forecast and taking advantage of those nice days to come out and see the displays.
And just for those of you who might be watching from outside St. Louis, it has been, as Cassidy mentioned, a pretty rainy past week or so, but the weather is starting to warm up. Today it's cloudy. It might look gloomy and chilly, but it's actually kind of nice. Like, I don't know, it feels probably mid-60s right now or so. So it's a nice fresh day, but not cold.
This is a nice display here in this sort of circular lawn that's out in front of Tower Grove House. You can see some different types of fritillaries there, the orange and yellow, and then I believe those are pansies along the ground, sort of ringing around the outside of that bed area. And I'm a little too far away to pick out what it is that's in that nice little cast iron planter there in the middle, but some nice color there. So that's one of those beds that gets these annual plantings, and this year it's featuring those fritillaries.
So along our left here are some of those daffodils that we were just talking about in bloom. And just a week or two ago, I suppose it was 2 or 3 weeks actually, the last time I did a virtual tour, these clumps of foliage here in front, these are some earlier blooming daffodils. You can see those are past now, but this next wave is in full bloom.
Yeah, those I would say were on the early edge of things, and now we're getting really into sort of peak daffodil time. Some other things that are blooming here are this grove of sassafras trees. We know that this grove of trees has been here for 160 years plus, so that's kind of neat. And you can see those little sort of yellowish blooms on the ends of the branches there on the sassafras trees, going back into the mausoleum garden. And another tree that's in bloom at the moment is the red buds. Those are starting to bloom. So we've got a really neat one here, just at the edge of the garden, and we'll pass a few more as we go. But what we'll sort of do, if we take a little stop here,
Sure.
These are the dogwoods. So these are not open yet, but just
they're
starting
bursting.
to. I have seen a few dogwoods that are a little bit more open than this, but the ones that we're seeing here are not quite, as are the tulips in this area. We saw how open and beautiful those tulips were. I mean, you can actually see from our view here, you can spot that pink in the landscape in the distance, but then you look right here and this is a different variety of tulip, and one that's going to be a little bit more shaded, I suppose. That is, they're not quite as far along yet. And we've seen that here at the garden, where the sun exposure can make a big difference on when the timing of the tulip blooms are. So these are a little bit farther behind, but there's some dogwoods in here that are, you can even see that one closer to there, where there's a little bit more color because those buds are a little bit more open. Definitely not full flower at this point yet, but the reason I kind of wanted to come this way is just because there's this really nice patch of daffodils here.
And it smells amazing too. Something does. I'm not sure if it's the daffodils, but there's a powerful floral smell over here.
Oh, you noticed my new perfume.
It's tasteful, Cassidy.
So this, I want to say the last time I was over in this area, there were just these little tete-a-tete daffodils that were blooming, and it kind of caught me by surprise as I came in this morning to see all these additional varieties of daffodils that are in bloom. So you have these daffodils that are called large cupped daffodils. And then you have these two, these Tizetta daffodils, that are really neat because you can see, like, on most of the other daffodils, you have sort of that single flower per stalk, and on this one, you can see that one stalk has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about five flower heads coming off of that single stalk. So just kind of neat little variety here with the tiny little flowers here, these, and then the white and the Tizettas in the background. And you can see there's even more that haven't quite started to bloom yet either. So a nice little corner of daffodils here. And then this beautiful red bud that is great because you can see it from the street as you're driving in. if you're coming down the east side of the garden here.
And this garden is always really nice during a little bit later spring, like April and May, later in April and May. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this herringhouse garden here for future virtual tours. But you can already see a lot coming up. You can see some hellebores that we passed in bloom.
Yeah, and there's some lilies in here, foxglove, coneflower, I think some ornamental onions as well. There's some really pretty climbing roses on the side of the house. So all of that is later blooming.
And it kind of all blooms at once, and when it does, it's really...
Yeah, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the exact time, but like later in May, maybe into June is sort of a good time to see this garden, which is a relatively new one, and maybe 3 or 4 years ago when it was first planted.
Hey Clarence.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right. Great job.
That's Clarence, one of our security guards and top fans. He always has been asking me to make a cameo on the tour, so today was his moment.
And so we're walking here through the daylily garden, which is also sort of, I think, the witch hazel garden is another way I would phrase it, because there are a lot of those trees as well. But right now, daffodils are the stars. Daylilies are June bloomers. Witch hazels were more into February and March. And so right now there are a lot of daffodils coming up, and I think I noticed it was catching Kristina's eye as well, the flowers and foliage coming in on the Japanese maple here in front of us.
And then this up ahead, this yellow bloom here, it kind of looks like witch hazel, and it's in the witch hazel garden, but I believe this is winter hazel. And the blooms look quite different when you get up close, but they're really nice.
Yeah, so scientifically they're cousins, I guess. Actually, I don't know how botanists would compare it, but they are in the same family, the Hamamalidaceae family. That's a mouthful.
Hamamalidaceae.
Yeah. There's a neat little flower
Yeah.
here.
Is this winter, spring snowflake?
Maybe, yeah.
It looks very similar to snowdrops, but it is not snowdrops.
Right.
I believe this is the spring snowflake.
That sounds right. You know, I'm often lost if there's not a nicely printed sign right in front. That's how I sound so smart on all these tours. I'm reading the signs.
Reading.
Yeah, so there's really, as we were talking about in the herringhouse garden, you have the same thing here where you see things springing to life, but just knowing their typical cycles, it's not time for the daylilies yet, but you can kind of gauge by the number of signs that you see in all these little patches of foliage coming out of the ground. In about 2.5 months, It's going to be really spectacular here with all those different kinds of daylilies in bloom.
And
Actually, right.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we should come up on these crab apples back here. They're really looking good right now, and we have sort of a visitor favorite spot in the Kemper Gardens, the Kemper Home Gardening Center, where there's a Crabapple LA. We won't make it over there today on this virtual tour, but if you can imagine a bunch of trees that look like this framing a walkway, that is what is going on over there. And there are crab apples elsewhere throughout the garden, like this one, as you can see. But they really make really beautiful flowers. And another interesting thing about them is that their flowers come out after their foliage. So they look very full when they bloom as well, with the leaves.
Yeah, and this is a nice spot you were mentioning, and I would encourage, as you said, for people to go and visit the Crabapple LA in the Home Gardening Center area. But this little strip here, which we call the knolls, but for sort of reference, the climatron is just to the north of us here, and the central axis where the water lily display pools are is just beyond us here. But this little sort of grassy area in between is filled with crabapple trees.
Yes.
So there are quite a few that are in bloom and either at or just getting to peak. So there are some that are have some really nice pink, like we're walking past right now. And then there's this one in front of us here that has really pretty white blooms that looks really great. I'm gonna suggest, Kristina, that we steer clear of that particular tree only because
the geese.
There are some geese that have decided they also enjoy the crab apples right now, and they are fiercely protecting their claim to.
You can see this goose right here nesting.
Yeah.
And the geese, they really do get quite mean when they are protecting their nests. So that is another takeaway from this tour, is to avoid the geese this time of year when you walk through the garden.
And if we pop through the iris garden here, I see a couple of irises that have started to bloom. Not super unusual, because a lot of these dwarf bearded irises tend to bloom kind of early, like clockwork, because that's the name of the iris. But I only see a few. There's this one here, which is a beautiful orange color, and then there's another one up here that we can go take a look at. We always say that peak for the iris collection is around Mother's Day, so mid-May, and obviously we're just now getting into mid-April. So, but everything at the garden in general, and this collection is no exception, is kind of designed to bloom in waves, so that you don't just have peak for a few days and then everything's done. So here you're seeing the beginning of the start of the bloom. Here's a little one called Cinderella down here.
Oh yeah.
So it's just a nice little bed because they're named after storybook characters, and so yeah, these are really early bloomers. And as we start to progress through April and into May, this garden in particular is going to be looking really great. So that's the sort of the first sign of it. And it's usually these, Kristina's having to get quite low to the ground to show these off. The dwarf bearded irises are always really low to the ground, as the name suggests, and there are intermediate and tall bearded irises that the tall irises, I think, typically reach like 2 or 3 feet high. So
These are all about a foot or less
yeah.
tall.
So the visual scope will change, but much like the tulips, it's not uncommon to see people in here when this garden is at peak, doing things like we saw at the beginning of our tour, like painting and taking family pictures. Super popular spot to come for Mother's Day.
And rightfully so. It is truly beautiful when they're all, not all, like Cassidy said, but when the majority of them are at their peak. This is a pretty overwhelming spot in the best way possible. And now we're approaching the central axis. You can see there's some work going on here in these pools, probably to prepare to plant some water lilies, although that won't be for a while, but just getting some of that prep work done. And you can also see again that variety in where tulips are at in their blooming cycle. So these here, you can see some of them are in bloom, others not quite, but they're all close. And I would say in general, this is going to be a great weekend for tulips.
And there's the goose
that this sign refers to. So see, we're not kidding about those tips of avoiding geese. They're not happy when you get close to them this time of year.
But you can still get up close to these tulip beds right here. This is a really pretty design. Julie Hess is the horticulturist who plans out a lot of these annual displays here in front of the Climatron, also over by the Linnaean House, and even the garden plantings along the driveway as you pull into the garden. Julie makes sure all of those look fantastic and has for many, many years. This is her last year doing it, actually.
She's getting ready to retire.
Yeah,
so.
You can kind of see her off in the distance there. She's doing some maintenance on these beds, but this is all her handiwork. So shout out to her for giving us this pretty display this year.
And again, I think it will be looking even more beautiful by the weekend, with some more rain and more sun in the forecast. You know, plants need both of those things. So if you can give them that in a little time, and I think this weekend will be prime tulip time. Now, this here is a magnolia. As you can see, we were mentioning earlier, some of them are still blooming, some of them are past. This is one that's kind of right in between. You can see it's dropped a lot of its petals already, but it's still very beautiful with a lot of flowers on the tree and some of that foliage coming in. And this time of year is a great time to visit the bulb garden, which is what we're entering now. You can see, even just at a glance here, how many different things are in bloom at any given time in the bulb garden. We're passing all kinds of daffodils,
hyacinth, grape hyacinth. There's a few tulips popping up here and there between the daffodils. There's some really pretty little tulips.
Yeah, since it's Tulip Tuesday after all, let's go have a closer look at these. These are a really nice variety with that sort of variegated red and yellow petal.
And this one over here caught my eye. This is a fringed tulip.
These are so cool.
Called North Pole, I assume because of the bright white of the petals looking like a little like snow. And then you also have this lily flowered tulip here. So, you know, I think a lot of people, when they think about tulips, think in terms of those big showy ones like we saw at the beginning of the tour, but there's a ton of variety in color, in petals, size, and we're seeing a lot of that on display here. And there's actually an entire bed, which I think we'll make our way to.
Yes.
That is that showcases a lot of species tulips.
I want to stop before we go there though and just show off these hyacinths. Just that nice deep purpley blue color and white contrasting so nicely together, and hyacinths are known for their powerful fragrance. They smell incredibly good. They're perfuming this whole area right now, so definitely worth stopping and smelling the hyacinths. You can see some more magnolias in bloom over here.
Some crabapples as well.
So what we're coming up on now is that species tulip bed, where there are quite a few different species tulips on display. Amongst other things, you can see there's some little daffodils in here, and but these, so species tulips meaning that these are tulips that would occur in the wild, or at least closely related in other cases to tulips that would occur in the wild that haven't been cultivated. So you can see their petals aren't quite as huge and showy, but they're a little more delicate. Some of them are kind of closer to the ground, but there's still a huge amount of color and variety in these, and they're just really neat. This bed is relatively new. I think it was put in, the first year it would have bloomed was actually during COVID lockdown. So this is really only the second spring that the public is able to see this bed, and it's just really beautiful. So much variety and color. And
yeah, there's lots of, like, this is a really pretty little lady tulip here. And there's just all sorts of things in this bed. They're either species or they may be hybrids or cultivated varieties of species. But the idea is, again, to highlight that diversity of tulips and other bulb plants. So there's some daffodils in here, and actually if we hop over to the other side of this bed here, this caught my eye the other day, and I'm glad they're still kind of in bloom here. This is a double daffodil.
oh wow,
That's just crazy looking.
that is crazy looking.
It looks like a lion's mane or a sunburst, or I don't know how else you would describe it, but
Wow.
this is actually a daffodil, and it's that double phenomenon we were talking about, and I can't even figure out where in there the corona is, which is part of the structure of a daffodil. There's just so much going on with the petals. It just caught my eye the other day, and it's really interesting. I'd never seen another daffodil that looks like this. And just from this vantage point, like even looking out, there's some nice, I thought they were daffodils at first, but I'm seeing their irises here, some sort of off-white and yellow irises, some more fritillaries.
And you can see even further beyond this bed, just layers and layers of blooms right now. It looks like that's more of that spring snowflake back there.
And some bleeding heart
Daffodils.
as well that is going.
Let's get up on that bleeding heart, because I don't think we have showed that flower off much this year in any of these virtual tours. But it's a really neat flower. that you can immediately see where its common name comes from. And these have a pretty long bloom time too. You'll see them blooming pretty early and they last for months. Oh, and I think Cassidy's working on showing off the other common name.
Yeah. So if you take one of these flowers and you sort of pull it apart a little bit, the other name for this is Lady in the Bath. So you can see the arms and the head, the little body in the bathtub. So that's the same flower, but kind of deconstructed a little bit. Sorry, my big hands are getting in the way.
Oh no, you can see it.
Showing it off,
just fine. Yep. So a really neat flower, and sometimes you'll see this in white as well. But a lot of pink in this area. Oh, actually, here's a white one right back here.
I think this is just a great area because if you sort of take it in from a landscape level without paying much particular attention to any one thing, there's lots of pops of color, especially looking this way, just the magnolias and the pinks and whites that those trees are giving off, and then all the colors lower to the ground that in this view is mostly daffodils, but as we showed off was also some tulips coming in. There are crabapples here that are just on the cusp that'll probably be looking really good in another few days to a week. And so you can really take it in on just a landscape level and enjoy it for all the colors and the scale, or you can kind of go down to that minutia level like we were, and you can look at these individual flowers one by one and pick up some of these really interesting species and cultivated varieties.
Here's some bluebells as well while we're passing by these. We mentioned these earlier, and they are a favorite of mine, so I'm partial to showing them off. And we've mentioned this on previous tours, but Shaw Nature Reserve is also a great place to see bluebells and other wildflowers this time of year especially. So if you enjoy getting out and hiking at all, this is a great time of year to visit the nature reserve as well. We're walking through the rose garden now. It's not quite rose time yet, but again, like some of those other things we've been pointing out, you can see that the plants themselves are coming back even though they're not blooming. But all around us you can see them leafing out. And this nice daffodil and grape hyacinth display in the center here. Now we're approaching what is really going to be a great grand finale for this tour. So much in bloom here at the Swift Garden Pools. Turn around and you all see the full scope. So we have tulips, we have hyacinth, we have, I'm wondering if these are buttercups?
Yeah, I think they might be. Let me just consult the sign. You are correct. Persian buttercups.
So a lot of pink and purple here in this area right now. And again, with those hyacinths kind of tucked in between a lot of these tulips, as you can see up here, those white spots are hyacinths. This area just smells as good as it looks. It's a very beautiful, springy site right now.
And just to kind of reinforce how quickly things are changing right now, this bed, I'm sure you're all tired of seeing my finger as I point. Not this one here with the pink and white, but the one beyond it there where it's a little bit more purple. I was just here last week taking pictures of that bed, and it was all hyacinth. There was not a tulip to be seen in bloom in that bed at all, and that was just a week ago. And it is kind of surprising to me to see the tulips here, because I didn't even know that they were part of this display, because it was so heavy on the hyacinth just a week ago, and now you have these tulips in here. And as we were mentioning a little while back, that's all the work of Julie Hess, who takes care of designing and planting, making sure these beds get planted. So this is her grand design on display here. And it does smell fantastic.
Yes, it really does. And let's just go down to the end here so we can kind of turn back and see the full scope of all these beds.
I see lots of people with cameras here today.
It's a great day for photos. And this whole week, if you are a fan of tulips, is really going to be a great time to visit.
And actually today, I mean, it's super great because you don't have the sun to wash the colors out, and you've got these nice droplets on all the flowers from the rain this morning. So a couple of things sort of working in the favor of not being here on a bright sunny day.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to this virtual tour. As you can see, it's a great time of year to visit the garden right now. All summer and spring, this is going to continue in those beautiful waves of blooms that we've been pointing out. But right now, if you are a fan of tulips, now is the time to come to the garden. They look incredible right now. So stay tuned for our next virtual tour. And until then, we hope to see you here.